What is up, folks? Happy Friday. Hope you're all doing well. We are back. It's Sports Clichés. We're week 3 into the NFL season. I'm Jay. That's Craig. Hope you're all doing well. And yeah, we're the Sports Clichés podcast. Hopefully, we'll be doing this as long as Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch will be in San Francisco. Just having signed a multi-year extension, coming hot off of a nice little Thursday night win against the Giants in Santa Clara. We'll lead off with that, I suppose, just going right into the game. It was a little shaky, I would say, at start. As far as some offensive, timing, that sort of thing. This was a game where we did not have a Brandon Ayuk. That was kind of the big missing name for the Niners, especially that receiving core has really started to really come into form, coming off of a pretty damn good last year into this season. Giants were able to drive the ball a little bit, made it a little interesting toward the end of the half there. Got themselves, really within striking range, and at one point with a 2-point conversion, they could have had this game within a field goal. Toward the end of it, Niners start to separate a little bit away. A couple bounces go their way as well, and before you know it, it's a 30-12 win for the Niners. What did you think about the game last night, Greg?
I thought it was exactly what I expected seeing the Giants at the start of the season, right? You know that defense is good. They caused a little bit of issues early. I had mentioned it early in the game. We were watching it together. I thought Purdy looked a little off at times. I think it was just him kind of growing into the game. I think as the game went on, he just continued to get better. It really grew into it into the second half. But yeah, about what I expected. One of these teams is a clear Super Bowl contender. Favorite is going to be there at the end. The other one is the New York Giants. And man, at the start of the year, I was thinking about this the other day of like, what teams did I really oversell and what teams did I really undersell coming into the season? Man, I was way too oversold on the Giants. I feel like I bought a whole bag of beans from this team because they are just there's nothing there. Daniel Jones, I think we all loved what we saw last year, right? It looked like they had kind of found a way to get him to be a little bit more productive, right? To be a little bit less turnover happy, to be a little bit more consistent. Man, without Saquon Barkley, there's nothing. It's just nothing, right? The offense is just non-existent without him. Which is a shame because I do like some of the pieces there. I've always been waiting for Paris Campbell to be a guy somewhere, and I thought he'd have a chance here. That hasn't come to pass. Obviously, like I mentioned, Saquon Barkley being hurt has just they ran the ball fucking 11 times yesterday, right? Like the Giants aren't going to win like that. They just can't, right? And it's not like they were crazy amounts behind for a lot of this game. It wasn't until into the fourth quarter when it felt out of reach kind of thing. I didn't feel like they had to go so heavy into the pass. Maybe getting Breida a little bit more of the ball might have helped. His average was good, right? He was averaging 4 1/3 yards a run. That's you can work with easily. But it never got going for the Giants offense, and the Giants defense had a game plan, and it was to blitz Brock Purdy, and we were talking about it last night. I think that's a terrible game plan. I really do. I think watching video on Brock Purdy should have told you, like, hey, less pressure against this guy might be better, which I know seems counterproductive for a guy in his 12th NFL start, but he handles the blitz like a pro. The dude has such a presence in the pocket that I think if I wanted to give myself a chance to maybe find a chink in the armor, I'd be rushing 3-4 more often than not and dropping as many guys into coverage as I could, and see if maybe you can throw him off with coverage blitzes, right? A little bit of confusion at the line. See if maybe that works, because blitzing doesn't do it.
Yeah, I think it was a. I think in principle, yes. You have, I would say, what you would be potentially your question marks as far as the Niners are concerned in that offensive line, especially that right side. Uh, your guard Brindle in there as well as McKivitz
Yeah.
um, have been your weak points. Obviously, on the other side, you're talking about Trent Williams on your left, so kind of hard to match up to that. But that is definitely something to be exploited with the Niners. I would say, as far as the regard as how they played, I think the offensive line in general stepped up pretty well. There were a few sacks. Purdy, I believe, did take about, like, I want to say, in watching that game, I don't have the stats right up there for me, but it felt like he took like 3-4 sacks in that game.
It was actually only 2.
Only 2. And that's kind of interesting because there were a couple plays where the pocket did collapse, and instead of being able to step up into it and make a throw, he kind of I think kind of what you need to do longevity wise potentially as a quarterback sometimes if like that route's not there, he doesn't want to give up the interception, you take a sack. That's generally what um that's smarter quarterback play, because there were multiple times early in this game, especially there were a couple instances where the Niners have long third downs essentially by the end of it. So the Giants got them right where they want them. You stopped on first down, whether it was a run or a pass. Maybe you got a sack in there. Second down, not much. Third longs, a couple of them, and it's again, all right. It sounds good on paper. Bring the pressure. Third down and long.
Yeah.
Rookie quarterback. He's gonna be maybe looking, one thing, if we're able to jump that route on a cover zero, that sort of thing, we're relying on our defensive backs who did make some plays early on. Definitely got involved there as far as some pass breakups on those timing routes. Broke up one to Kittle. We had the crazy tip drill one off of a Debo, thrown to Debo on the right side there.
Yeah.
That ball tips up, ends up in Ronnie Bell's hands. Fortunate, that could be a pick the other way. So not to say that it was a flawless game. I was surprised. I saw a lot on social media how people were saying this was Brock's worst game. Um, and maybe if you only saw like some of those passes early on in the game, if you're really judging the guy for throwing screen passes, what do you want to do? I mean, what are you're doing a slant or you're doing a screen pass? You got to do a quick hitter route when they're bringing 6
Yeah.
and you're blocking with 5 and maybe a running back to chip. What do you want? Like that's pretty much all you're really giving them. And credit for Shanahan and the guys, they dial it up. Who better do you want to start catching screen passes and run upfield than who? Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey? Are you kidding me? Like, these guys are built for that, and they demolished them on those screens. Huge gains,
Yeah.
especially on third and longs, when you can't be having that. You shouldn't be giving up third and longs on a screen pass, and yet here it was, time and time again. Brock taking what's available to him. And why
Yeah.
would you? What is he supposed to sit in the pocket for a couple seconds and throw a deeper ball down the field? We would have had a few more sacks, I suppose, for the Giants if you're going with that. There literally wasn't time. There were a couple times where he's literally on the back foot, release a ball. There's a ball to Kittle on the left side, beautiful, off the back foot. A ball not easy to make for a lot of quarterbacks. A lot of quarterbacks will sail that son of a bitch out of bounds 9 times out of 10. Beautiful ball. So always funny to see, like,
Yeah.
the folks coming out and saying that was numbers wise, maybe some accuracy issues early on, but those are pretty much uh pretty much you know non-existent. And then you're talking about by the end of it, not only, granted, 2 glorious touchdown passes, one on the left
Oh
side to
yeah.
Ronnie Bell, one on the right side to Debo Samuel. So that spread right there, you're not even too worried about it. Like, he's seeing the whole field. A dropped one by Christian McCaffrey on a wheel route that was absolutely beautiful. Could have been 3. So I believe they kicked the field goal on that drive. So it's like he could have had 3 tutties on that, and with a few long balls in there. So I don't see it. I don't see it as far as the everybody wants to throw the game manager tag or Kyle Shanahan, any quarterback. Hey, Kyle Shanahan's knowing how to draw it up. That's why you have those screens. Hey, we're going to dial this up. Debo, Juwan Jennings going to be blocking for you. We're going to even ship out Juszczyk or George Kittle. I mean, what are you going to do? Like,
Yeah.
it was really well planned and really well played by the team.
Yeah, I'll make a counter argument. I say that's probably the best game I've seen Brock Purdy play in the NFL. I to come out early in those first couple drives, he was missing some open guys, and you could make a highlight package of those first couple drives and make the argument. Oh, see, Brock, man, the accuracy issues. I think he started out the game like 50%, something like 6 of 12,
Probably, yeah.
6 of 13, 6 of 11, somewhere in that range. Ended the game 25 of 37 for 310 and 2 touchdowns. Right, he got that thing dialed in quick. Yeah, hitting screens, hitting easy routes. 2.34 seconds from snap to ball out of his hands. That was his average in that game. 2.34 seconds. That is elite. To be completing at that kind of an accuracy in 2.34 seconds on average is elite. He was absolutely unbelievable against the blitz. Those blitzes were coming and they weren't phasing him. He's got great pocket management. Yeah, he's got Christian McCaffrey and Eli Mitchell. Are we going to hold that against him? No. I think that level of play from Brock Purdy is a level of play that we saw very rarely from Jimmy Garoppolo. And again, I thought Garoppolo fit this offense really well. But if you were to compare, because I saw the same thing. I saw a lot of people going, "Oh, this is just what they did with Jimmy Garoppolo." Garoppolo didn't look like that very often. That was an elite level quarterback performance from Brock Purdy. I'll call it. I think this dude's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now, no question. I think he is that good. I think, yeah, because he's got great running backs and great receivers, that's somehow his fault. That makes him less good. No, he makes this offense work just as much as McCaffrey does, just as much as Kittle does, just as much as Debo does. It's shown by the fact that they let him throw the ball 37 times.
Yeah.
San Fran offenses don't do that unless you have complete and total faith in that guy, and they got complete and total faith in Brock Purdy right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, by the end of it, yeah, exactly. I had commented while we were watching the game. We were, I want to say, either 6 or 8. It was one of those minute marks. But basically, we are halfway through the second quarter. We are about 20 minutes and a bit of change through the game. Brock Purdy at that point had thrown his 20th pass. And I brought that up. I'm like, Brock Purdy has thrown fucking 20 passes. And it wasn't like it was all passing. Like, they were absolutely still getting some runs in there. McCaffrey had some great runs early. They were starting to, I think Shanahan made it a point that he wanted to spell McCaffrey a little bit. Eli Mitchell was brought in a little bit more. He even got into double-digit touches as far as the rushing was concerned. I think generally did pretty well. Is it going to be the dynamic kind of playmaker, especially on some of those screen passes? That's where Eli still needs to step up to match the level of Christian McCaffrey. So I suppose a little bit on that. But in general, like, I think just really well balanced. They knew they wanted to get the ball into Debo's hands. It's like, okay, we don't have Ayuk. We don't have the 1A, 1B kind of thing going for us. So we're gonna kind of, honestly, it was a little bit of a throwback to some of those plays that we were seeing maybe a couple of years ago. Some sweeps, some set up bubble screen. Like, we are getting this ball into Debo's hands this play, 100%. That is the call. We see the defense. They can't do anything about it. As long as we trust our quarterback to, on a timing throw, whatever, short route, short slants, bubble screen, whatever. What I found that was interesting on the kind of as the game continued to develop, I think a lot of people have potentially forgot of how potent offensive weapon, not only as far as his blocking is concerned, but the receiving of George Kittle. This was a nice little resurgence of that. When you don't have your number 2 wide receiver, potentially, who do you got? You still got that guy out there. Juwan Jennings being able to contribute a little bit. And then, Ronnie Bell, obviously. We had brought him up. One of his catches, I don't know how they recorded that, because he was not targeted on that reception he ended up having off the tip drill. But he has 2 receptions and 2 targets, apparently, on the day. So he might have only got that and the tutty, and that was basically it. But it was still good to see a little bit of contribution over there. As for the other side, I mean, yeah, quads going down, that's always gonna hurt. I was hoping, Matt Breida only getting 4 rushes is pretty insane to me. Uh, Gary Brightwell getting the same amount, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean like Slayton, Campbell, and Darren Waller, who they brought in, like that is a nice dynamic tight end that should be making a lot of plays for you. He is a matchup problem. They tried to target him, targeted 7 times, only the 3 catches though. Um, I figured that would be a little bit more of something they could go to as far as a reliable uh, option through the air for him. Because yeah, they are a bit dinged up. They were dinged up on the offensive line last night. That started to come through a little bit. Uh, and yeah, I think it was impressive that this game was close for pretty much that first half there. Just a I think the feel is you can't help but be a little bit nervous when they're still sticking around like that. It's like it just takes kind of one possession. Luckily, the possession went the other way. It was the Daniel Jones uh, interception. Um, that happened more late, but it was just kind of one of those feels to where like you're watching the game. It's a little surprising. Could have had another touchdown. Could even pulled this away a little bit more. A couple, a little bit more Jake Moody than we wanted to see. I know you love to see Jake out there, but you know, one or two of those field goals could have really been a touchdown. And this game could have even looked a little bit more ugly. But uh, yeah, credit to the Giants for sticking around. Hey, and credit to Graham Gano. I didn't think he had a damn chance on that 57-yarder, and he
Yeah,
fucking
he hit
nailed
the
it.
piss out of that.
Yeah, so good on him.
Um, I will say, if there's one thing that concerned me watching that game, and I think you mentioned that it's been a bit of a problem all year. I can't say that I've paid too close attention to him, but man, Dio Lenore looked like he was getting burned all game. He had a couple of bad pass interference calls. It looked like he was getting beat every time, and you feel like that's one of those games where it's like, yeah, you get away with that because it's Daniel Jones, right? If Slayton's doing that and you have a better quarterback in there, that might be a little bit of trouble and maybe something that's a bit of a concern for the Niners looking at that if Lenore doesn't step up a little bit more in that position. Because you know that Charv Ward's going to shut down whoever he's got, right? Whoever Travarius Ward's got in that game, they're not seeing much of the ball, and if they are, it's going for nothing,
Yeah.
right? Travarius Ward is great at, he's a good coverage receiver, or a good coverage corner rather, but he's also good at keeping everything in front of him. He'll let a few catches go in, but they're only going to be for a couple yards. You're never getting the big one on Ward, right?
Yeah.
But if Lenore's getting beat that consistently off the line, better quarterbacks are going to see ways to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things to where they know they're set at the one, and it kind of like who's ever that two is going to be probably more picked on, just because you're going away from Travarius Ward. Just kind of naturally into the other side of the field. They've mixed it up a little bit. It's been Lenore. It's been Isaiah Oliver. Uh, really like, and it goes down to getting that nickel as well, getting that nickel quarterback. I mean, I feel like this secondary, while it's it has a number one more than ever with Javarius Ward. Um, Still in the mix. Like you almost you kind of need to really have that two and that slot that nickel corner covered. And from time to time, those guys will get a bit exposed. What I think covers up that a little bit is that we have the Niners have the ability to um, you don't feel like you're losing that much in the coverage game when you have Fred Warner out there. Um, Late in that game, Warner's the one who sets up that tip drill pick to Funga in the later part of that game. Now, while it didn't have maybe the impact as it felt like that the game was already a little bit out of reach for him, I suppose that kind of covers up the need to constantly be running those quarters out there. I think it's still gonna be like a constant, uh, going with the hot hand sort of thing. You're gonna have a guy. He's probably gonna look good in practice. You're gonna put him out there, and yeah, I don't know if they start getting beat when they're actually in the game there. I wouldn't be surprised if they have a little bit of shorter leash, and whether it's Lenore, it's Oliver, it's even Oren Burks
Yeah,
going out there. Like it might be a little bit of a platoon as far as the two and the nickel is concerned, and matchup wise too. I think that's
yeah.
another thing you gotta look at is who are these guys gonna be, lining up against. Um, always something to consider in the matchups, but yeah, it's a like I said, I think it's just always gonna be a thing. The corner opposite of Travarius Ward is always just probably he's gonna see more things thrown his way. Potentially gonna pick up a PI or two because trying to prevent something. That's kind of just what's happened. It's you hope for the step up to happen. You hope for Lenore to get there because he's getting the reps. He's getting a lot of starters reps out there. He's facing the number two of the other team almost constantly. So it's hopefully it's something that picks up with time. Definitely outside the offensive line. Yeah, I suppose that's the other thing you gotta look at with the 49ers. Not even the safeties. Not worried about Gibson
No.
or Hufanga. It's just really that specific 2-3 cornerback getting that secured. I
Yeah,
really
and it
wish.
is.
I really wish we had Kyle Williams still. Hey, I'm a huge man. If we just had that guy in the slot, you figure out what to do with the two. Like that seems great, but it feels like the two and the
Yeah.
and the nickel are a little off with them.
And no team's ever going to be perfect, right? Every team's going to have something. It is a small change because I don't think Lenore's a pylon out there, right? I think he can do a job. Obviously, he was very good at Oregon. He was a stud at Oregon. So you kind of hope that with time, it really shores itself up. Only his second year. You figure it out from there. But it's a small thing, but it is a thing that I look at and I go, okay, the Giants aren't going to take advantage of that. And the Cardinals next week aren't going to take advantage of that. But then you get into teams like the Cowboys, you get into teams like the Bengals later on, the Jags. Those are teams where you start to need to worry a little bit about those small things in that game, right? And I think that's going to be where we start to see the really big test of what this Niners team is. The spoiler alert, not going to be next week. It's not going to be the Cardinals.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
I'm not even 100% sold on the Cowboys. I think we're looking more at when they play teams like I said, like the Bengals, like the Jaguars, the Eagles later on in the year, right? That's where we're gonna start to really see how good this team is.
right. I will say I would say two other things take away from this game. As far as potentially one reason the defense and why I would say the Giants looked competitive out there in the first half of last night's game. Why the Rams stuck around for a bit of time there in the game last week. Um, I think this defense right now is really built to you keep it in front of you. And a cornerback's gonna look not great. He's gonna be off receivers, that sort of thing. He's gonna be giving up out routes potentially. But they are determined not to get beat deep. No one has gone really deep on the Niners as far as in any of these games yet. And I don't know if they're giving it to them. I think this is a team, as far as the defensive philosophy, you trust your front seven to do a lot of things, and you trusting potentially linebackers to be able to maybe do a little bit better in coverage, especially with a guy like Warner. Uh, but I feel like the like you're gonna have to do what you saw a bit of Goff doing last week, or sorry, Matt Stafford doing last week. Goff, I'm looking to the Rams years ago. Um, but what Matt Stafford had to do last week was consistently be hitting these curl routes, these timing routes down the field multiple times, and you're able to do that, and it's brutal when it's happening because you're getting dotted up down the field, and then it goes for a touchdown, and you're like, shit, are we just gonna get run over the entire game? but it requires an amount of execution and like consistency. And every now and then, just if you're having to do that and you're just having to make that many more plays to drive the ball down the field, there's that many more opportunities for things to go wrong. A tip drill here, a bad sack, one penalty, and that completely kills that drive. So I think it's a real bend don't break system that the Niners have going right now, and that maybe kind of plays into certain quarterbacks look a little bit better early in games, certain offenses look a little bit better, and maybe it doesn't help as far as you kind of leave quarterbacks to you're playing a softer coverage. You're playing a more further back coverage. Therefore, you're gonna give up a 15-yarder every now and then on an out route, something like that. So I feel like that's a little bit of something. The other thing, and we saw this stat last night, and if you watched the game, it was like Jesus Christ. Every time Brock Purdy drops back, they are bringing at least 5 guys, if not 6. A historic number since the stats started being tracked from I don't know, it's like next gen stats. I don't know who the fuck it was as far as
It
the
was next gen.
next gen.
Yeah.
Damn near 85% of the dropbacks for Brock Purdy were blitzes coming from the Giants. That is a historic high. And it sounds like a historic high, and yes, it is. Just kind of a fun little, stat that came out of that game. Uh, on the short week, again, you brought up at the beginning, like, Giants blitzing, like, it doesn't sound terrible on paper. Maybe not 85% of the time you're blitzing. You need to dial it off a little bit. You need to throw some fakes in there. You need to really be bringing it, but you got to taper those guys off. That's when you start clogging up those lanes. And you start maybe having a couple more of those tips that the Giants were getting early on, and breaking up those timing passes to Debo, right?
Or you catch Purdy in the blitz mindset and throwing too quickly, right?
Yeah.
The second you show blitz and drop back, if you catch Purdy just for 1 second, not recognizing that drop back, again, that 2.34 second number in and out, right? So if you show a 6-man blitz, right? You show a 6-man front. In Brock Purdy's head, he's thinking, I gotta get this thing out quick. He calls the snap. You drop 3 back and send 3. Well, now all those lanes that he's thinking, okay, I gotta get this thing out quick. Here's where my lanes are. They're all closed. Right? And instead of an easy 15-yard pickup because he was able to hit a quick slant, you have a real chance at a pick there. Right? You'll probably be in the right spot for it if he doesn't recognize you back off. Now, Brock Purdy, very great eyes downfield. Very great eyes downfield. But all it takes is one, right? All it takes is one to swing momentum. One last thing I want to bring up before we move on. Jalen Hyatt. I love Jalen Hyatt. Fantastic wide receiver at Tennessee. Had obviously the big play last week to win you the game. Played 15 snaps in this game. 10 of them designed runs and 2 designed screen passes, which means he was only a reasonable target for a pass in that game 3 times.
Yeah, didn't see one.
Unacceptable from Brian Dable there. Unacceptable. This guy is the big play receiver that you're looking for, right? What's the one thing the Giants need? Somebody who can break off that big play. Somebody who can keep defenses honest and keep them from backing off of receivers, right? Force them to come up and cover you, right? Because right now, why cornerbacks can just drop back, right? Yeah, sure, take your 3 yards underneath Daniel Jones. We're just not going to you don't have anybody who can beat us over the top. Jalen Hyatt can beat you over the top. And just nothing, right? He's not even a factor. He was a factor. He was literally a target in 3 plays. It's not good enough, right? Like, you need somebody like that who can keep defenses honest. Even if his goal in that game is, we're going to have you out there for, 20 passing plays. Your route every time is a streak. You're just going straight down the field. And we're forcing them to cover. If they don't, we'll just chuck it up to you, right? But even if it's that, just to keep defenses honest on the fact that you have somebody who can beat them over the top, but 3 plays where he was a realistic target is not good enough.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Only only a couple catches in that game with against the Cardinals. But yeah, exactly. Just kind of like a catalyst for what was looking like a pretty embarrassing loss, and someone that was able to find it there, and that's just it. I brought up in the fact that that's seemingly how the defense is playing. They're gonna keep you in front. Um, the only way to break that is to test them.
Yeah,
You gotta test them downfield. You got to test if there's one thing, especially as far as Hufunga is concerned, this is a guy that's looking to attack the
yeah,
ball, to attack the ball carrier. So yeah, you draw him, you maybe operate a couple routes that really operate downfield, and yeah, I think you at some point it's just a why the hell not? I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, are you getting that much better of an option out of a Gary Brightwell or a Wandale Robinson? So yeah, uh, can't help but agree. As far as why not? Why not get the young guy out there? Um, and someone who has shown some flashes of being able
yeah.
to be that kind of playmaker for you.
Like only
Yeah,
2 catches, but when one's for 58 and one is for 31, I don't need any more than that.
yeah.
2 catches for 89 yards all day, right? And they just don't have that player on this team outside of Jalen Hyatt, and they're just not putting him on the field. And I don't get it.
Well, let's continue on, I suppose. As far as the that game again, 30-12. Niners continue on. Will be 3-0 going into Week 4 here. Giants 1-2 after Week 3. So fall a little bit in that tough NFC East. We'll see if we get some interesting bounce back, some interesting matchups going forward in that NFC West. I suppose I'm just talking really about the Seattle game, but the Rams too actually have a interesting one on that Monday night. Let's jump right into it, into the Week 3 slate of games. Um, Talking about teams, a lot of 1-1s. Actually, it was kind of interesting. I was seeing it kind of broken down by divisions. I want to say it was something like going into Week 3, there are like 7 or 8 teams in the NFC that are 2-0. There are like 2 teams in the AFC that are 2-0. Otherwise, it's a lot of 1-1s, some surprising losses, some 0-2s like the Bengals that we're very surprised about. Um, and yeah, some that, won a game in Week 1 and looked like absolute crap in Week 2. Enter the Cleveland Browns, who will be hosting the Tennessee Titans, both 1-1 on the season. Tennessee, I mean, we probably spent a good 25 minutes on Tennessee alone last week, and that was only like an hour and a half episode. So, uh, Tennessee gonna be coming in, gonna be getting 3.5 points. Cleveland -3.5 here at home in the Battle of the 101s, 10 a.m. on Sunday. Who you got here, Craig? And I know who you probably have, but why do you have the
Why
Tennessee
do I have the
Titans?
Tennessee Titans?
Why do you have them?
Um, the Browns don't have Nick Chubb, so their
Right.
whole offense is gone. They I don't know if you've seen Deshaun Watson's 2 games this year. He has been brutal. He looks cooked. Then you go and sign Kareem Hunt, who, let's be honest, his last couple years with Cleveland looked cooked, right? Like the first year or two where they had the split carries between him and Nick Chubb,
Yeah.
it worked out well.
Yeah.
Um, last couple seasons, it was only Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt was doing nothing. So now you got a quarterback who's looked cooked, running back who's looked cooked, a defense that is being asked to do way too much of the heavy lifting for this team at the moment, and you're facing Derrick Henry. That sounds like it's going to be a bad time. I know the Browns' run defense has been surprisingly strong. They faced a Pittsburgh Steelers team that has no offensive line
No.
last week.
They
That
don't even try with Naj, honestly. They
that doesn't count.
yeah.
Um, it's just I even if it wasn't for the fact that I refused to pick a team with Deshaun Watson, and then you add Kareem Hunt onto that list, by the way, oh my god. Is there a more unlikable team in the league right now than the Cleveland Browns?
I mean, yeah.
Can't think of it. But matchup wise, this also feels like a disaster for the Browns. It just feels like one of those games where the Browns offense gets 3, maybe 4 possessions because Tennessee can just keep it and run and run and run and run. And the Browns can't stop turning over the ball right now. So,
I mean, this
oh,
is, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a feeling after a year off and all that, all of his shit. I mean, it's no surprise that Deshaun Watson is treating his fan base worse than he treated those women. Like, literally. No surprise that he's going on burner accounts and trying to defend himself. He's blocking social media,
yeah.
Cleveland news reporter, accounts and that sort of thing. Um, he he's a person that clearly lacks accountabilities for his actions and what he does. So for this to go as poorly as it has been going, and hopefully continues to, um, I can't wait till Ryan Tannehill. Like, okay, Ryan Tannehill, he showed some wheels last week. He had a little escapability. Ryan Tannehill run the ball down the field. Um, we had, reasonably so. I feel the big question mark of, can the Tennessee Titans? They can't do the same kind of offense. Uh, that's the thought. You can't ask Derrick Henry, who's just another year older, to continue to carry this team. That was my feeling last week. But apparently you still can. Because I think that's exactly, I mean, that's kind of what you have to do at this point. Your strength is still by far this running game. 11th in the league right now as far as rushing yards average. First is the Browns, but they don't have the guy who's doing that for you. Um, this team goes as Derrick Henry goes. And I agree as far as the defensive front. That's your strength as far as I think the Browns are concerned. There's one thing on the other side that's an odd strength. Tennessee Titans have not been doing too bad getting to the quarterback. So there's
Nope.
going to be some pressure there on Deshaun Watson. I expect him to to perhaps make a few more mistakes. You can't rely on him to carry this game for you. So it's going to be really, which side do you trust more? Do you trust the, Kareem Hunt? Yeah, coming off of, all of his bullshit and like just having to jump in. I don't see it. I got Tennessee in this one. The points will help, I suppose, in that regard, but I got them winning outright for sure.
Oh yeah, this is one where I didn't even need to look at the spread. This is an outright pick for Tennessee for me, pretty easily. It just feels like the worst possible time for the Browns to run into this game. Right there's some teams that the Browns maybe could have run into here where you're like, okay, they don't really have an offense that can do what it needs to do to beat the Browns here. Tennessee's offense
Yeah.
will do exactly what it needs to do, which is not give the Browns offense many chances to make explosive plays, because that feels like the only way they have a chance to win this, right? You break off a couple big ones, right? You get a couple of those big plays. I just don't see it there.
Let's keep it going, and this is another one as far as a real grind out potential game here. Real interested to hear your thoughts about this one because it's kind of one of it's the NFL favorite along with a very uh team that has some potential here to really put a foothold in this division early into this season. Now, this is only week 3. I'm just talking, maybe a few games down the line we might see it. But we got the Atlanta Falcons going into Detroit to face off against the Lions. Lions getting -3 here at home. Atlanta coming in 2-0 on the season, Detroit coming off a heartbreaker loss in which they almost had it real back and forth, and then just couldn't quite get it done there in the end against Seattle, coming at 1-1. Who you got for this one, Greg?
It's so interesting to me because if you had asked me this before week 1, who would I have in week 3, Lions and Falcons? I'd be very heavily on the Lions side. But I kind of like what the Falcons got cooking up right now. God, I fucking wish they'd use Kyle Pitts more. But that's a whole nother story. They have the best 1-2 punch at running back in the league right now in Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. I can't, like, maybe McCaffrey and Eli Mitchell, but I think if you're looking at the overall package of the 1-2, I think I'd even maybe put Bijan and Algier ahead of them. In that, like, McCaffrey would be the best of the 4, but then you'd go Bijan, Algier, and then Eli. It's a tough one, man. Player for player, you'd think the Lions are better, but I think the Falcons got a. Shockingly enough, I feel like they got the big play potential in this game. And I think in a game that feels this close to me, I like the big play potential. I like the idea of Bijan breaking off a 40-yarder out of nowhere. Or, you know, you get one of those quick slant passes to Drake London that goes for 35. I don't see where that is for the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs is very good. But he's yet to show that same kind of boom that Bijan Robinson has shown. I think I got the Falcons. I think Falcons defense has been surprisingly good this year, right? For a defense that was pretty mid to bad last year. They've seemed to have gotten it figured out a little bit. And especially they do well against the run. So this is going to be up to Jared Goff. And I know he threw an interception last week. One interception in his last like 400 passes isn't going to change my mind about Jared Goff. I think he's a very solid quarterback. And I think he's proven to me that like you can't underestimate him. Jeff Okuda's going to be back, and the Lions are going to be without David Montgomery. That's a couple of big swings as far as player momentum goes, right? Ritter has shown some improvement as a true quarterback, but I think Ritter's strength in this offense comes with his own legs as well. It's gonna be tight. And at the end of the day, I want the team that has that chance to break the big one. Right? That team that, oh God, it's tight, could go back and forth, boom, 50-yard touchdown. Who's that 50-yard touchdown coming from in this game? Probably Atlanta.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, when you got St. Brown on the other side, it's always interesting as far as the playmakers. We both have confessed our love of a good old Josh Reynolds, of course, and my own of wanting to see Sam Laporta pop off, as that's kind of my hidden rookie, strong rookie of the year potential there. But I will say one interesting thing for both these teams: they both really played down to the wire in their games respectively last week. Nail biters, obviously, one goes better than the other for one of the teams. One goes to overtime, I suppose, even. What's interesting about the Falcons' run is that this game looked pretty dead going into the fourth quarter, down 24-12 going into that fourth. And you're wondering if that offense can put together drives like that. Yeah, able to pretty much dominate that fourth quarter. Strong, obviously, effort on the defensive side as well, not giving up a single point on the other side. That's a 1 point game, mattered a whole hell of a lot, obviously. This one, really, for me, one of the toughest games to pick this week. Real coin flip situation. And if this was played in Atlanta, I'd go Atlanta. This is being played in Detroit, so I got the Lions on this one as far as my pick. Damn close though, and honestly, could be another push. We had a push last week, oddly enough, in our picks. Um, could be another push situation as far as the field goal being the defining winner for the Lions. I feel like it could be that case, but and I could absolutely see Atlanta taking it as well. But gonna be a close one. Should be a damn good game in that morning slate. Gonna be looking forward to watching that one for sure. That'll be the one on the side screen. Um, I will say, did not bring this up going into it. We both sucked ass at picking games last week.
Yeah.
6-8-1 last week. So hopefully we
Better than
bounce
I thought
back.
it was, to be honest with you.
Was that? You thought it
Better
was
than I
worse?
thought it
Yeah,
was, to
yeah,
be
yeah.
honest with you.
No,
I was
you.
watching the scores going, oh,
No,
Jesus,
I
we...
had I had a run last week. Let me take a look at the page. I had a run early, the early slate. And it was I'm through 5 games. I'm 1-4. I'm like, oh fucking. And then I was 3-8 after the Jets game, and that's late. And then we went on a streak of at least win, tie, win. So I needed some late game pickup for sure. We were crap last week, so we'll see early on here. Um, of what we do. But let's keep it moving on to the next game in our slate here. We got the New Orleans Saints opening up at 2-0 as well in that NFC South. Going to go on the road to that Green Bay Packer team that took that loss to Atlanta last week. Uh, Green Bay coming in at -1.5 here at home. What do you think? Do they bounce back from the 1 point loss last week?
I do. I'm still not sure what I think of Jordan Love as QB1. It's interesting because the stats look good on paper, right? On paper, he's, I think, the highest or second highest QB rating in the league right now. Uh, all the stats look strong, but they really seem to struggle at scoring, and that is a big part of winning football games. Unfortunately, is scoring points. Um, that being said, the Saints have not impressed me. I know they're 2-0. Ho hum, fairly easy schedule to get there. With the Panthers and Titans. This is their first real tough team on their schedule. I think it shows. I think the Packers do end up winning this one. Probably won't be the highest scoring game in the world, as I mentioned. The Packers do struggle to score a little bit, but it's not like the Saints are lighting the world on fire either. The line here is close enough where it's more or less a pick who wins kind of thing. We're within a field goal here. I got the Packers.
For sure. I do have the Packers as well. One kind of interesting thing. I mean, the Packers are actually second in the league as far as points per game scored. Doing pretty well in that regard. Saints are actually 25th. They're fucking tanked. One of the worst in the league as points per scored. But I will say the Packers do get a little fatter. They did play the Bears. Uh, that game against Atlanta, not a huge scoring game. I mean, 25-24, but it still essentially slots them kind of in the middle of the pack because of that week one. Not too terrible on the scores. Saints, though, you're talking about a 16-15 win, a 20-17 win against the Tennessee Titans and the Carolina Panthers, respectively. Nothing to really hang your hat on and like, yeah, those are good, dominant wins against strong teams. Those are one possession wins against not good teams, basically, as far as the
Yeah.
general feeling is concerned. So I'm not quite of a buyer of the Saints yet. I think their defense, as it has surprisingly in seasons, in recent seasons past, will keep them potentially in games that they wouldn't otherwise be in. Even the Denver Broncos were in games last season with that historically bad offense. That defense kept them around,
Yeah.
especially early in the season. Saints did a little bit of the same thing. So I look for that. Um, the other side of it, I think, for me, as far as the Packers are concerned, absolutely, like, it's it's Jordan Love. It's the idea of can can you eventually become what I feel is your best case scenario in that you truly are able to develop the running game. Right now, they have a basically Aaron Jones is taking quite a back seat. Dylan's getting all your carries for the most part.
Aaron Jones is hurt, isn't he?
But
Didn't play last week for sure.
oh, okay. So that makes a little bit of sense. But basically, right now, you're going with AJ Dillon, and that guy is not even getting you 3 yards of carry right now. If they could start to get a little bit better on the balance as far as their running game is concerned, um, only going to help out Jordan Love. Uh, Impressive though, 6 touchdowns, no picks so far. Um, Not great as far as the yards, through the air is concerned for Green Bay, but at least not turn the ball over for you in that circumstance. Uh, and just I think in general, Green Bay is while it's a 2-0 team, this is one that you can get a win. Um, just for just slightly having some more talent. I think they need to kind of figure that out though, as far as how this offense is fully going to operate down the line. I'm kind of in agreement with you. While their points per game might say one thing, um, I think this offense is going to have to find the proper chemistry, the proper balance to be able to continue to get wins as the season goes on. So I got Green Bay for this one, um, going to 2-1. I see this be potentially a tough game for them though, as far as a good Saints defense is concerned, and might be a little bit of an eye opener. You might get a win in this one and still have a lot of questions to be answered as far as how your offense is going to operate going forward. Kind of my feeling.
Yeah, I will say with the points per game thing, because I do think it's a very much a facade on this Packers offense. They already have 2 defensive touchdowns this
Yeah,
year
yeah,
and
yeah.
2 touchdowns on drives that have started inside of the 10.
Precisely. Short fields.
Right.
Absolutely. Not wrong.
So
Not wrong.
it's been a lot of their defense actually doing the heavy lifting of getting the ball into scoring range.
Yeah.
Right. It feels like when they like, especially last week when the Falcons were able to keep them, right around the 25-30 yard line to start drives, they had nothing. They weren't moving.
It's kind of one of those interesting things because it's points and the stats, like they'll tell you one thing, but I mean, think about it though. Like, say if your defense does get you the turnover, you're within the 20 or something like that in the red zone right off the bat. If you only get a field goal out of that, yeah, it's 3 points. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's almost momentum for the other side.
Oh, 100%.
Huge. You come out, you give them that incredibly short field, you stop them for field. So the fact that Green Bay is converting those into touchdowns with Jordan Love at quarterback is a nice little thing to hang your head on. You're getting touchdowns, not getting field goals.
Yeah.
It will win you some games. But again, you played the fucking Chicago Bears week 1. You got kind of you got served some cake. Like you're gonna eat well in that game. And don't knock your Atlanta Falcons. I think by far going to be one of those surprisingly strong teams. I put them in absolutely for getting into the playoffs. They might be the 4, but they'll still get a home game for being the division winner. I still
Yeah.
believe that truly.
I have very much watching the way this Falcons offense has run. I've very much changed my tune. I did think the Falcons were going to be one of those teams that was fighting a little bit for a wild card spot. I thought the Panthers were going to end up winning this division. I very much think this is the Falcons' division to win, and I could honestly see the Falcons being a 10-win team based on the fact that they get to play inside of this division. Right? They by far look like the strongest team in the division.
Yeah.
Right? Distance ahead of the Saints, Panthers, and who am I
Bucks.
missing? Bucks. Actually, never mind. We'll
Baker.
talk about the Bucks later.
Yeah.
Baker's looking solid.
Hey. Well, yeah. We'll get to that soon enough. Let's go to another division winner that I had The Miami Dolphins are going to be hosting the Denver Broncos on Sunday. Dolphins coming in 2-0. Broncos 0-2. Miami getting -6.5 here at home. Who you got?
Make this 16.5, and I'll still pick Miami. This
Woof.
is this is
Yo.
the Broncos are bad. Spoiler alert: it wasn't just coaching that was the problem.
Nate Hackett was thrown under that bus, and for what?
No, Nate Hackett still sucks.
He does,
But
but why'd you have to throw? We all knew you didn't have to say anything. That's the funny thing with Sean Payton. Why did he even comment? We saw the games. We knew
we
he was
recognized it.
terrible. Why did you have why call him out? That's just mean. That's just kind of stupid at that point. Like you're at. We're going to off-season topics.
Yeah.
We're rewinding about 2 months here, but that was the funniest shit ever. When you were like, "That's the worst coaching job I've ever seen." Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like,
And then in week 1, you go and get yourself out coached by Josh McDaniel.
hey, let's go.
You should be
Josh and
fired for that
Josh.
alone. If you get out coached by Josh McDaniels,
Yeah.
that should be your job.
I will
Sean
say,
Payton's looked lost as the coach of the Broncos through the first 2 games.
kind of tough. I mean, they lost against the Raiders 1 point, and yeah, low scoring game. Lost against that Washington team, which surprising a lot of folks, I think, early on here by 2 points. So they've lost by a combined total of 3 points, but they're 0-2 all the same. So I will give them a little bit.
This offense is not those 2 offenses, right? I love the Commanders, but they're going to win a lot of games on their defense more so than their offense. I think Sam Howell does a good job of managing the game. Tua has shown so far that he can take games over, right? And this is the kind of game with the Broncos are going to need that defense to really hold out. And I don't know if it can forever, right? I think Tua's going to find ways to break through. I think they won't have Jalen Waddle because of concussion protocol. That is a big loss. They still have Tyreek Hill, right? They still have Tua at quarterback. They're gonna find ways to get into the end zone. I don't think this one stays close.
I got Miami as well. Again, yeah, Denver. Despite that, yeah, close games. Still games you would hope to be winning if you're hoping to turn the corner. They're taking these tough losses is rough. One thing I will say, my boy Raheem Mostert coming back, looking good for one of your older running backs for damn sure. And one of your most efficient runners, I think definitely like a top 5 runner. I want to say this season as far as opening up. Of course, we're only a couple games in, but 158 yards on the season, 3 tutties, pretty good numbers. It's got to be one of your better contributors, at least I guess fantasy wise, maybe not yardage wise, but yeah. I will say, yeah, the Waddle, yeah, that's always gonna hurt because he is so fucking talented. I do find it hilarious that you know, I've made the joke before. The idea the Dolphins are the Niners East basically. It's uh when you have the Raheem Mostert, you have the River Craycraft, who is a nice little slot option that they'll go to from time to time here. And yeah, the just people forget, and yes, the I don't think you could ever forget how badly they did handle the Tua situation last season. Kind of uh kind of big missteps from them as far as their front office was concerned, and just allowing him to play, that sort of thing. But goddamn, when that guy's going and that team is operating, he looks absolutely phenomenal out there. Um, so yeah, I think they'll go pretty well um, forward with Tua. One thing I am a little surprised by Miami. I think at one point it was definitely last season and definitely more the first half of last season, where it was like, all right, this defense is actually doing pretty goddamn well. They've kind of taken quite a step back, I feel. Their defense needs to kind of get back a little bit into a little bit better form from what they've had before. A little surprising in that as far as their chemistry is concerned. Granted, against the Chargers, but a Chargers team that's been reeling, still gave up 34 points to them. A fairly decent game against New England, but um, if there's one thing I want to see out of Miami still going forward is obviously this offense to continue in multiple ways, but really for the defense to step up going forward. That's kind of what I'll be looking at. For Denver, um, shit, they just got to figure it out. Like it's it can get real ugly real fast. 0-3 in the AFC West, like it starts. Well, it's not hopeless, and math would say otherwise. You don't want to be falling that far behind,
Yeah.
especially when it's like it's wide open chance too. Like you have the Chargers playing absolutely awful, and yeah, the Raiders they'll pick up a win every now and then, but the only thing you have to really worry about is the Chiefs, and yeah, right now already dropped the game to the Raiders. Like, not how you want to start the season for the Broncos.
I will help out your Raheem Mostert point here.
Yes.
Of backs who have seen 20 plus carries this year, so the majority of their team's snaps,
Yeah.
only Bijan Robinson, DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb, Christian McCaffrey, and James Cook have a better yards per carry average than Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, James Cook up there, brother. Nice.
James Cook has had a great start to the season for Buffalo.
Yeah, but yeah, I think both got Miami. It's a large spread. I hate these spreads because so many games can be decided within a touchdown. 6.5 is still single digit, but it's like it starts to get a little tough. A lot of things could happen, but still go Miami with it. I feel strongly about them winning, and should have the ability to win pretty handedly. Let's keep moving on to the next game though. That Los Angeles Chargers team that we said was underperforming, going to be going into Minnesota to face off against a Minnesota Vikings team that is quite underperforming. Battle of the 0-2s. Someone's going to get their first win,
Are we
hopefully,
sure?
this season. It could be a tie. It could be a tie. But yeah, Vikings coming in, losers against Tampa Bay and Philly. Um, that Philadelphia score looks a lot closer than it really was. 34-28. That game was pretty skunked early on. I feel. Tampa Bay, surprising one. On the other side, Chargers losing that Miami team we were just talking about by a couple points, losing to Tennessee, and quite a little back and forth they had last week, but damn, a brutal loss to a team that you should be beating, honestly, in the Chargers. So my feeling is that even though it was a closer game that they had the potential to win, God, you got to feel like the Chargers are reeling more than the Vikings are as far as 0-2 starts are concerned. Um, you kind of accept that you got your ass kicked last week by Philly, basically, if you're Minnesota. You can kind of move on maybe past that and just move on next week. The fact that you went back and forth, and you end up losing to the Tennessee Titans, ugh, that takes the wind out of the sails for the Chargers, in my opinion.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, I think they're losing this one too.
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
I I have no confidence in either of these teams. I am not fully convinced that either of these teams is walking out of here with a win because I don't believe either one of them knows how to win a football game at this
Oh
point.
boy.
That being said, I I look at this game and I'm like, okay, what ends up happening here? And the honest answer that came into my head is TJ Hawkinson's just going to dominate this Chargers defense. Right?
Ooh,
Like they don't have anybody who can cover TJ Hawkinson. Look
Darius,
at their
yeah.
cornerback this room, it's all been atrocious. Their linebacking core is much more suited for getting to the quarterback than it is for covering a big tight end like that. Hawkinson's going off for like $150 in this game for sure. Like it's gonna be a bloodbath from that tight end position if Kirk Cousins can get it to him consistently. And to me, that's just it stuck out like a sore thumb to me. It's like you have nothing for Hawkinson, right? Like sure, you can throw J.C. Jackson and Asante Samuel Jr. Maybe try to double up Justin Jefferson and do whatever you can there. You could throw three guys on Hawkinson with your defense, and I don't think they can stop him, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's it would be something else. I think right now, I think the main thing I take a look at when I'm seeing this game, three huge players out for the for the Chargers. Eckler, I think maybe he was mentioned before. Joey Bosa apparently going to be out with a hamstring injury. Eric Hendricks, linebacker, going to be out.
Oof.
Um,
Oh no.
that's brutal. Like that's some pillars of your team right there. I want to even say potentially three captains, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it is.
I don't know if Hendricks is, but I feel like he
No, I
should
think
be.
it is. I think it's Hendricks, Bosa, Eckler, and Herbert.
So that that's brutal for a lot of teams. You lose three starters like that. That you're gonna hang your hat on. One other thing, and we'd be remiss not to bring this up. I mean, have you seen kickoff? This is 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 Eastern.
Oh,
This
it's anti-prime.
this is
Oh.
on the Sabbath in the morning. Kirk Cousins lockdown.
Old man Kirk just had a nice lunch at that point.
Yeah, exactly. He's not tired yet. He'll take a nap right after the game because it's gonna
Oh
be
yeah,
hitting that
no, he's
hour. 4 o'clock. Yeah, it's sun setting. Yeah,
yeah.
that'll be time. But Kirko, morning, perfect. Yeah, and with the injuries, like I was a little bit on the fence of this because it's like, it's two teams that are playing like shit to start their season. Definitely underperforming, not where they want to
Yeah.
be. 0-2, looking to get a win. Minnesota also at home. Got to factor that in a little bit. In the dome, um, the Minnesota crowd, when they have a team that they like to root for, that could be a real loud place. Um, so yeah, lot of not loving it so much. This is a closer game. If certain circumstances don't line up, but yeah, you're talking about an AM game. You're talking about all the injuries on the Chargers side. Um, feel like the Vikings should have this one.
Yeah.
We'll keep it moving into the next one. Got an AFC East matchup. The New England Patriots 0-2 coming in, going against the New York Jets led by Zach Wilson. Jets going to be plus 2.5 here at home. Who you got in this one?
Uh,
The over-under on this game, by the way, 36.5. The
take
last
the
game we were
under.
just talking about, Chargers Vikings, 54.
Yeah,
So
take the under.
take the under on a 36.5. Anyways,
Ah, Jesus, I can't think of two quarterbacks in the league right now I trust less than Mac Jones and Zach Willie. Jesus, this is a this is a ugly one. You know what? I'm gonna take the Jets here.
let's
I'm i I'm
go.
gonna take the Jets in a game like this, where you got two quarterbacks who, like I said, is there two quarterbacks you can maybe trust less? Look to the running game. Jets running back room is so much better.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
a rough game last week. Dalvin Cook literally getting the ball just stolen out of his hands at one point. Just that was unfortunate, but yes, better running room, uh better defense, like a
Yes.
very potentially strong defense. You got to feel for the Jets. I got the Jets. I got the Jets big actually.
Oh, Jets win 13-7. Let's go.
Big. 6 points is a huge now. No, I honestly think that uh it'll be, realistically, into the 20s, just about for the Jets would be a pretty good game for them. And I don't know if the Patriots have more than a couple field goals they're able to put on the board. So I feel like this will, even in a low scoring game, potentially a uh, couple possessions up, 10-point win for the Jets.
Can't help but notice. Also on the under there.
Yes, also on the under. I mean, let's be reasonable.
This game's bad. Don't watch it.
I mean,
Don't watch it.
the
This
red
is
zone will
like,
be up too, so it's like, yeah,
yeah,
we'll probably
this
get an
is the
update.
one you keep red zone up on the side, and every once in a while they
Yeah,
might show
they'll
some
give us an
highlight from
update.
this
Yeah.
game, and you'll go like, oh, okay, that game is also going on right now.
All right, we'll go into the next one though. This is one of the I don't want to say egregious because I understand there's reputations and that sort of thing, but the Buffalo Bills coming in 1-1 into Washington against the Commanders who are 2-0. Washington plus 6.5 here at home with the better record. I was surprised by this one. Uh, that pretty much reveals I got Washington here. Just the spread alone, let alone the fact that I don't necessarily doubt that they're not a really damn good team. A great defense, and Sam Howell in that previous game, kind of showing that he has the ability to operate this offense to a degree. Brian Robinson, as far as a running back is concerned, has been very impressive. I got Washington in this one for sure with that spread.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you on that one. I think the Bills still probably have enough to come out with a win on this one. But I don't think this game's going to be nearly as high scoring as a lot of people seem to think it's going to be. Like I've seen a lot of like Bills win 35-20. Nah, this Commanders defense is no joke.
Hmm.
Bills ain't putting up 35 here. This is going to be a 24-20 kind of game. A 23-20, something like that. Like it's not going to be a walk away. And in a game like that I feel like there's so much room for a tight game, I'm not comfortable taking 6.5. I think
Yeah.
Sam Howell is being a little bit disrespected here. I think he had a very good game against the Broncos. And say whatever you want about the Broncos. One thing everybody says about the Broncos, they got a good defense. Didn't really look like it against Sam Howell. Howell made that defense look pretty pedestrian. You mentioned it, Brian Robinson's a great running back. They have all sorts of tools when you look at wideouts from Jahan Dotson to Scary Terry. They got options across the board. It's an offense that's solid, and if Sam Howell can continue to give them good, above average to good quarterback play, that offense is going to tick. That defense will do its job. I don't think this game is at I said it coming into the season. I think the Commanders are a sneaky pick to potentially swipe the NFC East. And I still think that defense is scary good, and if Sam Howell can keep playing the way he is, they're a tough team to beat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't think they're an easy out. Yeah, if that defense is operating as we feel they can, yeah, I don't think that's a gimme for anybody, any team, honestly. You're gonna have some series that are gonna end. You're gonna be punting the ball to them from time to time. Um, I don't think you just kind of continuously run this team over in that regard. Uh, they've shown that through definitely last season and going into this season. Uh, Pretty nice work in that regard. I will say one thing that I've been very wary of as far as Buffalo going forward, and one reason why I think the Dolphins will take that division over the Bills um, is that can you operate this offense and not trust Josh Allen to be a pseudo running back? Pretty much most of your running game. They have found that in Cook apparently. It's one thing that I was wary about this team before. They're getting into that now, and it seems if they can continue that going forward, I think it'll only be good for this team. That being said, yeah, again, 6.5. Like I don't like that spread. They're on the road too. Like this is in Washington Stadium. Again, if one of those stadiums where I feel like it might actually be the worst stadium in the NFL as far as what Washington has.
I don't
But
think it's a might.
it is. Yeah, they had like the sewage leak and shit like that. But
The roof
the
fell
fans
down.
come out. The fans come out just like they came out in Oakland for the Raiders. And if you ever went to the Coliseum, and I did, that thing fucking that was a piece of crap. That stadium was not it. Uh, they come out still. That sort of thing. There's certain energy, and I think them being at home, you could never really take that out. I like Washington for sure on this one. Keep it moving along into the next one we got. Oh, a thriller right here. An AFC South matchup for the ages. The 0-2 Houston Texans going into Jacksonville to face the Jaguars. Jags getting -8.5 here at home, sitting at 1-1 on the season. I think this is one of those ones where it's, do you think Houston could keep this within striking range? Because I think just to win heavily on the Jags unless they really fuck it up. I will say some unfortunate injuries here potentially. Um, we have a Zay Jones out for Jacksonville that I'm seeing. Seeing Josh Allen, the linebacker
Yeah.
for Jags, questionable. I don't know if that's been ruled out or anything like that. Nothing that I've seen so far. Uh, on the other side, Laramie Tunsil questionable with a knee for the Texans. I do like Tunsil as far as one of the tackles in the league. So unfortunate in that regard for the Texans. But I got the Jags, even with that giant ass spread. They're just outright a better team, one with a lot more expectations behind them. And yeah, uh, Texans couldn't even keep up with Indianapolis last week. They actually
Yeah.
got kind of skunked in that game. So I don't have too much expectations for him here.
I think you missed the biggest out of this game, and that's Derek Stingley Jr. will not be
Oh
playing for the Texans.
shit. Oh
Oh
yeah. Okay.
man,
Yeah. That is
Ju-
yeah.
you have fucking Trevor Lawrence against a Texans defense that's already not great without their number one cornerback. Uh-oh. This one uh, gets ugly before it looks better. I think the Texans might pull a touchdown or two at the end to make this not look like they lost by like 35, when really this game was 40-7 at the half or something stupid like that. It might get out of hand. I want to say something because I feel like CJ Stroud is having a really underratedly decent season.
Right.
And it just doesn't look like it, right? Because he's 0-2. But he's throwing the ball really well. You know what his problem is? They can't stop him from getting. He's been sacked 11 times already. He's thrown 91 passes in the NFL already, yet to throw a pick. Uh, he looks really good in there when they actually give him more than a second before he's got defenders on his ass. They're gonna David Carr this guy. They're gonna David Carr the shit out of CJ Stroud, aren't they? Because he looks every bit the part of a very good NFL quarterback. They just need to find a way to keep him upright.
Yeah. I mean, it's been the case. We were gotten to saying the same thing about Trevor Lawrence, a
Yeah,
season or so ago. It's like this guy might get, you know, you might get Andrew Luck, basically like you're just gonna run this guy ragged, and you can see the talent's there, but if you don't help them out with a decent offensive line and perhaps some, the development around a running game and weapons and that sort of thing, it's just like if that doesn't come around, then yeah, it's you wonder how long that could last. How you can't keep the guy upright. He's taking hits. Eventually, one of these big ass dudes he's gonna land the land the wrong way, and that'll be the season more or less.
yep.
So yeah, that's got to be the worry for you. I think last week did have the highest amount of yards um, thrown by a quarterback. So yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Will be go under the radar for sure in certain weeks, like last week, because the team's not winning. But uh, is some to be some to be hopeful for. Basically, it's like okay, you have a guy that is able to deliver the ball, like getting it out to what essentially is number two, number three quality receivers across the board. I mean,
Best.
Woods, Collins, what Tank Dell is that guy's name? I
Tank,
don't even
Tank Dell.
like these are not your these are our second and third stringers, honestly. And you're kind of piecing it together. It kind of feels like this is what Houston has had for a bit of time. You don't have uh real strong ones at these positions. You have that with CJ Stroud, and yeah, you need to start developing and helping him out. And I only want to see the Houston Texans do well because obviously, D'Amico, man,
Yeah.
gotta see D'Amico get a few years out of this thing. See if you can build
Time.
something there. So we'll see.
All they need time. Right.
Yeah,
It wasn't gonna go from outhouse to penthouse overnight. It's gonna need time, but you have a couple of guys now that you can work with. When you look at CJ Stroud, when you look at Damian Pierce, I think you would only benefit yourself getting Dalton Schultz a little bit more involved in these games.
right.
Uh, but time, right? It's just it. It's they're not gonna be great this year. I still think by the end of the season this team looks better than they do now. Right. I still think this team finds a way to scrap a few wins. I don't think this is a team that's going to be fighting for first overall. I think they're going to be a little bit above that pack, not way above it, but I think there's going to be a couple of teams fighting for first overall. I think your Arizonas, your Giants, teams like that. Yes, I think the Giants are down there. Uh, and then a step above that, your 4 or 5 win teams who aren't quite in that fight. I think that's where you're going to find Houston by the end of the year, but still work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think yeah, I think it's interesting and it's I would say by far two teams as far as Jacksonville and Houston that are like the ceiling hasn't been reached yet. They're still having to grow in a lot of regards. Obviously, like there's a lot more hopeful room for the Texans to grow because we haven't seen a good version of this. But yeah, you're getting Jacksonville that's been a year or so into this process, and in a game like this, you expect them to be able to
Yeah.
pretty much stomp out the Texans. We'll see going forward. Um, but giant spread on that one. You have Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, another giant spread. We got another -8.5, and we're dealing with another AFC South team. We got the Indianapolis Colts sitting at 1-1, going into Baltimore to face off against the Ravens. Ravens sitting at 2-0 at home. Baltimore is getting -8.5 here. Who do you got?
Y'all are talking shit about my boy Garner Minshew. Like he's not gonna come in here and win this game outright. You got the Colts.
Got the
I got the
Colts.
Colts.
Okay.
I I'm joking. I think the Ravens end up winning this game, but I don't think it's gonna be by that much. I think Gardner Minshew piloted this team really well last week. And yeah, wasn't the greatest defense in the world that they're playing, but neither is the Ravens defense. It's just kind of fine. It's not exceptional, it's not terrible. It's fine. Um I like this Colts defense to be able to hold the Ravens within check. They're not going to obviously shut them down. You got Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers is very good. There's obviously a lot of pieces on that offense to make it work. But this is also a Ravens team that doesn't have OBJ, doesn't have J.K. Dobbins. Is missing a lot of the pieces that at the start of the season they thought were going to be big contributors.
I mean, it's huge. I don't know if you've seen. The Ravens are out. Odell, they're all out. Tackle Ronnie Stanley, center Tyler Linderbaum, Marlon
Yeah.
Humphrey, their cornerback, all out. Marcus Williams, their safety, Odafe Owe, their outside linebacker. Like a lot of starters, a
Yeah.
lot of starters right there. Justice
And
Hill, the running back they have, I think, kind of as potentially their one.
Gus Edwards, right?
Edwards. Oh, is Edwards the
Yeah,
potential?
Edwards is the one. I think Justice Hill is more of their spell.
Yeah. But you have that on the other side. Like, yeah, you're gonna be down Richardson, Minshew there. Uh, your center as well, Ryan Kelly is gonna be out for the Colts. But yeah, I think just like you're having a lot of guys for the Ravens having to step in there. That's a giant spread. I'm not so confident that this offense will be operating uh, at its highest regard. A couple offensive linemen out, like that's a big deal, I would say. Um, I think Indy. I mean, you can't forget this. This is a team that still has DeForest Buckner in the middle there.
Yeah,
Um, I could see them having some problems here, and I got Indy as well.
yeah. Uh, Also, really quick, Anthony Richardson. I love you. I think you're fantastic. You're going to be a great quarterback one day. Throwing motion's not all there yet, right? It's very much a work in progress. We've seen it quite a few times. He has sailed dudes, right? It's a massive arm that he doesn't quite have full control of yet as far as the accuracy is concerned. Gotta start sliding. He has
Right.
got to start sliding. You don't want to take away his legs, especially when he's so raw as a passer, because it's really going to help his passing game, right? At least think about Josh Allen early in his career, right? He really struggled as a passer, but once they start letting him use his legs a little bit more, that's when the passing game started to come a little bit more. And the more he used those legs, the more he got running, the more confident he got. It really did help. And now Josh Allen is seen as a much more polished passer, and he is a much more polished passer. But I think of Anthony Richardson in a very similar place as Josh Allen was in his rookie year. You gotta get down. You cannot keep taking big hits like this. They're just punches on that hit card. You don't have as many of them as you think. And concussion 2 weeks into the season is not a great start to your career. There's a lot of potential there, but somebody's got to get in his ear and tell him, get down. Get down. Stop
Right.
taking those hits and just, preserve the health because he'll get there. I truly believe that. I think Josh Allen is such an apt comparison for him. Right, big, freaky, athletic quarterbacks whose arms are not fully developed yet. Uh, gotta gotta start sliding.
It's yeah. It's like it's so early in that it's like someone will get in his ear.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's a continued problem and he's a fucking idiot and he just won't listen and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I but yeah, absolutely. I mean, you bring up a great point. I didn't really think of it like that, but like concussion 2 weeks in, it's it's a it's a marathon, man. It's not a sprint, right? Like you gotta be able to keep this thing sustainable. And um, I think I brought up with when we were talking about the Niner game with Purdy. Um, he took a couple sacks to where he pretty much like stepped up and would potentially be like into a throw, but just kind of went down like more or
Yeah,
less. Like took the sack, took it well. Tom Brady made it the longest career that we could imagine because that dude refused to take a proper sack. He would never put himself in the situation to really get hit
yeah,
most of the time. He was very, very aware of that. And as competitive, and as much as you want to put 100% into each and every snap, each and every down, give yourself the best opportunity to win. What's the saying? Availability is one of your greatest attributes.
Yeah.
If you're not playing, it's great that you have an arm, you're seeing the ball, you're getting better as a passer, you run it, that sort of thing, and you're aggressive with it. But if you're not actually able to play, it doesn't fucking matter how talented and all these things are, because you don't have the ability to contribute those things. So, yeah, absolutely, going forward.
I think I got an even better comparison for this. And it's how many times can you think of in your head where you saw prime Michael Vick try to truck somebody? Never.
Yeah.
Never did it. Right? If he had an angle on you, he'd break your ankles. But if he saw that hit coming, he's getting out of the way of it. He's stepping out of bounds. He's taking the slide, right? Because that's what you got to do. You can't. No, I get the fact that you are very big. He's 6'4". He's 245 pounds. This dude is an absolute machine. You're facing 6'5", 6'6" linebackers who are also freak athletes who are running at you head on.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot just outstrength these guys. You cannot just take those hits. Get down. Get down. It'll save you your career, and I want to see it because I truly believe that is Josh Allen potential there. And like peak of Josh Allen's play. Right? Josh Allen last year when he looked like an absolutely untouchable quarterback, that is Anthony Richardson's ceiling. And he's just got to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep it going, keep the train moving. But for that game being said, we both got the Gardner Minshew led Colts to keep it at least within the spread there. Let's keep it going though into I think we're starting. Are we saying the afternoon games at this point?
Yes.
I believe so. Bam, into the 1:05 or 1 o'clock p.m. spread for Pacific time, 4 o'clock Eastern. We got the Carolina Panthers going into Seattle to face off against the Seahawks. Carolina 0-2, Seattle at 1-1. Seattle -5.5 at home here. I think injury wise, let's see, we have Bryce Young out for the Panthers, so we got Andy Dalton on the start. As well, we have some potential concerns with like a Miles Sanders and a Brian Burns listed as some kind of injury, full practice participant. I don't think it will affect them, but just something to be a little bit concerned about, I suppose, going forward for those teams. For the Seahawks, let's see. I thought I had the injuries pulled up here. Nothing of too big a note that I'm seeing for the Seahawks. Woolen, their young cornerback, is doubtful actually, so I'm surprised I didn't see that. But yeah, Panthers coming in, losses against Atlanta and New Orleans, both within a single possession on both those. Seattle, crazy kind of back and forth game that they won against Detroit last week in OT. Got absolutely skunked by the LA Rams in week 1. So, what do you expect for this one? Who you got, Craig?
So it's crazy to me because Bryce Young, I said it at the beginning of the season. He's going to be fine. He's going to struggle the first few weeks. Life of a rookie quarterback. So in this scenario, in the small window of time scenario that we have here, Andy Dalton is actually an upgrade to Bryce Young at the moment. It is a very narrow window because in a couple weeks he's not going to be. But at this moment here, Andy Dalton, you're probably getting better production out of the quarterback situation. That being said, still not enough. I got the Seahawks. I think this Panthers team will eventually benefit from Bryce Young's athleticism and his field vision once he gets accustomed to being in a NFL pocket. He's small, right?
Yep.
That was always the thing about him is he's small. He's got to get used to looking over NFL linemen. That's always going to take a little bit. I'm not worried about it, but it was always going to take a couple weeks. Um, with that being said, the Panthers are a team very much designed to have an explosive, athletic quarterback that is not Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
On the other side, the Seahawks had a pretty rough looking week one, but that offense looked fine in week two. I think Geno is just fine at quarterback. I love Kenneth Walker. The guy's got to know through the end zone. I think the Seahawks win this one. I think it's probably by somewhere in the range of 10 points. That's what I got.
Yeah, I will start out by saying that I do have the Seahawks as well on this one. I am interested in the regards to where I actually think, as far as what Seattle needs to figure out, is their defense. They've respectively given up 30 and 31 points to the Rams, and I mean, we love the Lions, that sort of thing, but not necessarily a team that's going to blow the doors off you with the points. I understand turnovers and that sort of thing do play a role into it, field position, but uh, trends continue potentially, and you can't have these score lines getting into the 30s against you all the time.
No.
Despite turnovers, because turnovers and that shit happens, right? One other thing, I suppose I don't have a great feel for like Andy Dalton really moving the needle as far as this team being able to win games for the Panthers. I guess that's one reason why I'm kind of like, oh well, shit, their starters out. Like that just changes things naturally. Now is Andy Dalton someone who could step in better than a lot of other folks into a situation where it's just like you need to come in for a game? Probably because he's a vet. Yeah, he has a good understanding of that. If he could return to form, and I'm not too sure if he's been dinged up or exactly like because I haven't looked super closely at how the Panthers have been calling their stuff. Uh, Good old DJ Shark. Uh, Only one reception so far on the year. I could see him getting quite a few looks in this game to maybe uh, give some life perhaps to this Panthers offense. I know he's someone you've looked at as being a little bit of a needle mover, I like to say,
Yeah.
as far as this team uh, being able to win some games. Miles Sanders, I honestly, I was like, oh man, like that's not, granted, good run and whatever with Philly while he was there, but like Philly had a lot of things going for him. He has the potential to be someone who could help this team quite a bit as well. So I probably give Sanders a little bit more credit as we're going in. Unfortunately, no tutties on the year and a fumble loss, but someone again you kind of look to along with the Hayden Hurst who you brought up before as not a bad piece there. Adam Thielen, kind of the the interesting the old vet there that he'll probably see his fair amount of receptions. But I like DJ honestly to go off a little bit this week for the Panthers. Probably won't amount to a win, but just a feeling.
Yeah. No, I like that.
Surprising other thing. Uh, Potential worrying situation for the Seahawks. Uh, at least I want to say 6 year starter now for them. 5 year starter. 5 year starter was with the Jets prior. Jason Myers has opened up the season 3-6. Kicker warning, y'all. Kicker warning. The leash is short for some of these guys. You can't keep missing kicks for your team, uh, especially when you're losing games by if you're losing games. Now, granted, they went to overtime when they won, but uh, yeah, 3-6 on the year for my. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, that's you're not gonna. they're not going to keep you around, right? It is that easy. And it's not like they're all long ones, right? He's one of two from 30 to 40, one of two from 40 to 50. Those are ones in the NFL you're expected to drill, right? And if you're not drilling them consistently, they'll find somebody who will. Uh, and yeah, this could actually be the week, right? Like you said, it's not along the leash. He has a similar week, 2 of 4, something like that. Misses a
Yeah,
couple.
you got to find
See you
somebody who's
bye.
get those points for you. You need it. You can't. It's harsh, but it's like, yeah, how long are you gonna let a guy get it right? Um,
Like, I mean, Robbie Gould's still sitting out there.
right? Hey, good as gold, baby. Um, let's go through. I want to get to the last few games as we're starting to kind of wind down the episode here. So let's kind of go rapid fire. Couple giant spreads here. So it's just kind of interesting for the picks. Maybe a little bit of your opinion if you have something specific you want to hit on for each of these. But let's go through the next few games here. A little bit more rapid fire. Chicago Bears going into Kansas City. Chiefs getting minus 12.5 here at home. They are only 1-1 on the season. Did have that surprise week 1 there. Chicago 0-2, and we heard about the stuff with Fields and I believe their defensive coordinator having to step down all of a sudden. So crazy week for the Bears, who are already having a bad start to the season. What do you think on this spread?
I think Mahomes finally gives up to throwing to anyone other than Travis Kelsey. Uh, and Travis Kelsey just catches like 25 passes this week, and the Chiefs win by like 30. There's no reason to believe the Bears can keep this game close, right? The only reason the Chiefs' offense has looked as bad as it has is they lead the league in drops by having more drops than the next 3 teams behind them combined.
Yeah.
um, I think this is the point where Mahomes is like, you know what, Kadarius Toney, enjoy never seeing the ball again. Sky Moore, I hope you liked your rookie season because you're done. Everything just goes to Kelsey now.
Yeah. Yeah, I got KC as well. It's just until we see otherwise, I
Yeah.
I, I can't trust anything. And granted, 12.5, huge spread. Uh, some teams you just can't trust, even with that giant spread. I think we go right into another 12.5 point spread as the Dallas Cowboys going into Arizona to face off against the Cardinals. 2-0 against 0-2. And yeah, plus 12.5 for the Arizona Cardinals here at home. What do you think about this one?
So it's interesting because on one hand, the Cardinals' defense hasn't been as bad as the stats would say they have been. It's been a lot of the Cardinals' offense being completely anemic that has caused the defense to look terrible. But they have like 9 sacks already this year. They've been pretty decent against the run. The defense hasn't been as tragic as the scores might appear to make it look. Uh, that being said, that offense is as tragic as the scores make it appear to look. It's not good. It's not getting better. Uh, Cowboys by a lot.
Yeah, as much as much I hate to say it, I do have Dallas as well on this one. Um, yeah, Cardinals, you know, a heartbreaker as far as a game that whatever you might think of the Giants, that sort of thing. That's a game that they're still not expected to win. They came out firing to where it's like, what the hell is this team? And then to still take the L there. Kind of brutal. Might be one of your only opportunities to really win a game this season. If you're being completely honest. Um, Dallas, yeah, I expect them to be able to put up the points there, and I got them beating that spread. Again, giant spread. I hate to do it, but beating by a couple touchdowns seems realistic as well. Gonna go with Dallas on that one. And then a much closer spread, but two teams that very interesting where they're at right now. Both 1-1 can be seen potentially as coming in this season on the lower side of 500 for sure. So could be a very scrappy game, very interesting one. and that's what we're getting the line here. Pittsburgh Steelers going into Las Vegas to face off against the Raiders. Raiders getting -2.5 here at home. I'm thinking to myself, I gotta go with the Jimmy G factor. I think he just has enough with this Raiders team, as much as they've been in shambles, and who knows what the fuck is going on with guys like Chandler Jones. Jacoby Myers, unfortunately, I believe still injured going into this game. But the Steelers, like, the identity is not there. Yeah, the fact that they have a guy like Najee Harris, but they can't seem to get anything going to him. Um, Receivers have been very unfortunate as far as, Deontay going down. Uh, Pickens hasn't been able to pick it up. So I got the Raiders on this one.
I got the Steelers.
Ooh,
Sorry, I know you love your boy Jimmy Garoppolo,
yeah, love him.
but he needs to be in a structured offense to be successful. He's not a guy who will carry an offense on his own. There needs to be that structure around him, and then he will help complete that structure. Right? Uh your coach is fucking Josh McDaniels. Your structure is panic stations at all times. I get it. The Steelers are also. This game's gonna be fun to watch, by the way, because it's gonna
Oh,
be a shit show. It's
yes.
going to be absolute madness. It's gonna be infuriating at times. There's gonna be fumbles everywhere,
Yeah.
picks thrown out the wazoo. It's gonna be wild.
This is the one on the screen for the late game for me, for
Oh
sure.
yes.
Because the Niners already played, so that'd usually be potentially there. This is absolutely there. Gotta see the shit show this is gonna be. Yeah.
Josh McDaniels is a master at finding ways to lose games. It's a borderline superpower. He does it again here. Steelers take this one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I couldn't argue. I mean, again, and the close point spread. Like, this is a
Yeah.
beautiful little, like. I
It's
I
gonna be
like
fun.
Vegas to win. They could literally win by a point, and this screws me over. Like, this is gonna be a pretty messy game potentially. 17-16, all the opportunity here. Um, but next, I'm gonna need Craig. I'm gonna need you to wax poetic for me. I need to find out why Baker Mayfield is about to win this game at home for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Philadelphia Eagles. I feel like this is what you're gonna tell, but maybe I'm speaking too soon. I know you love Baker right now in this offense, the resurgence.
I said it coming into the year. I think Baker Mayfield was one of the smartest signings. I think that dude showed a lot when he got away from teams where he was expected to be everything. You have a lot of weapons here, man. You have Mike Evans, who, again, you want to talk about criminally underrated receivers in the game. Mike Evans is an all-timer wide receiver and just doesn't get brought up in that level of wide receiver, and I think it's just so unfair to him. This is a guy who can get 1,000 yards in a season in his sleep. He's already got a 10,000 yard career. He's averaging 19 yards a catch this year. Like the guy is unbelievable. He finds the end zone like it's nobody's business. Uh, and when you give Baker Mayfield somebody like that, somebody who's a real option where it's like, find me the ball and I will do something for you, Baker looks confident. And that's all it's ever been with Baker. You look at that season with Cleveland, where Cleveland looked really good, Baker looked confident. You look at the season after, where Cleveland looked like shit, Baker had one shoulder, didn't look confident at all. With Baker Mayfield, his game goes with his confidence. It's not about who's playing around him or how they're playing. It's all about what's inside of Baker's head. Because no quarterback has faced a higher percentage of light boxes, aka no blitz, everybody in coverage. We don't trust you to make a throw, than Baker Mayfield this year. And nobody has a higher completion percentage against light boxes than Baker Mayfield this year. Teams are dropping back. They don't think of him as a threat, and he's taking it personally, and I love it. I love that Baker's going full on revenge tour with this shit. That being said, the Eagles are going to win this game. They're just the better team, right? They are. They're just objectively the better team. But this isn't the end of the Bucks story. The Bucks are going to lose this game. It's going to be by more than, what's the line, 5.5, 5?
Yeah,
it's going to be by more than that.
4.5
But it's
is actually
4.5, even better. It's not going to be a blowout. The Bucks are going to find a way to keep this game competitive. You got Evans, you got Godwin, you got Baker Mayfield in the right frame of mind. The Eagles are 31st in the league in pass defense. Baker's going off for like 330 in this game. It's going to be a big game from Baker. I just think the Eagles offense finds one more touchdown than the Bucks in this one. But this isn't going to be a low-scoring game, and it's going to be a fun one to watch.
So, couple things for me is that, yeah, I think the the thought of Baker as a starting quarterback in this league, like, I think there were people that potentially questioned it. Wasn't sure if he still kind of was going to be able to, when you have the kind of beginning to a career that he did, it's always interesting where they bounce back. Are they destined for the role of being a second stringer?
Yeah.
Plenty of times that stuff's happened. Obviously impressive in that regard. You start to remember that Tampa does have some weapons. You have your Godwin, you have your Evans. I think you have a potential running back in White that you can start to operate with. And another thing for me, granted, it was a one point they started to definitely separate. It got closer toward the end, but this Philadelphia Eagles team, for the most part, has not been playing all that cleanly. A 5-point win against New England to open up the season against a team that, on paper, you are a lot better than. Kind of like a team we'll get to on the Monday night game. As far as this is a Bengals, paper-wise, the talent's there, but what the hell is happening? As far as I feel like these games with that squad, they should be a little bit better. I'll give you this. This is, again, if this was flipped, this was in Philly, I'd have a really hard time. Not only am I going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the spread, I got them for the outright dub in this one, and I'll put 5 gifties on the line for it.
I like it. I almost don't want to take it because I'm like, I really think they have a shot too. I really do. Like I said, I think this is an offensive firefight. I think this game, we were joking about how like Steelers and Raiders is going to be a fun game to watch because it's going to be a shit show. This game is the game to watch if you're looking for like offensive firepower. This game's going to be crazy. The Eagles pass defense is porous. It is bad. Evans and Godwin against those guys are going to eat.
Yeah.
Also, don't look past Kate Otten in this one. The Eagles have struggled with tight ends these first 2 games. And listen, it's one thing when you're facing elite tight ends. When you're struggling with the Bears covering tight ends, that's a problem. Kate Otten had a really good game last week for the Bucks. He looks like he's somebody that Baker's really starting to trust. He could have a big game in this one too. I almost don't want to take the 5 gifties because I'm not against the theory that the Bucks could win this, but I will for the sake of sticking by my pick. I still think the Eagles have just a little bit more on offense. But this Bucks team is somebody, as a Falcons fan, I am horrified of when we come to the end of the season because I think this team could be right up there. I think the NFC South might have gotten a raw deal at the start of the season. We were talking about this division potentially having nobody over 500, potentially being one of those divisions where it's like, man, you get to 7 wins, you might win this division. I think these two teams are going to really make it a dogfight down the stretch.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was definitely one of those. I wasn't sold on any of these teams really being able to stretch it. I thought maybe not necessarily sub 500, but just over 500 more or
In
less.
and around.
More AFC South, I was thinking,
Yeah.
because they actually got that last year as well, as far as a sub 500 team being it in these expanded playoffs. That was the potential, but the yeah, I think the idea that the Bucks have really stepped up that much to where, yeah, again, crazy to say, because this team really had to like cut it down to the nitty gritty last season. Starting to already bounce back, I think, a little bit is Tampa Bay. They got some pieces there still. So yeah, I like them. So we got the split on that, and yeah, I'll put the gifted subs on. Why
Yeah.
not? Into the Monday night game, last game of the slate for the weekend. We got. Well, I guess it's Monday night. It's not the weekend anymore. But we got the Rams going into Cincinnati to face off against the Bengals. Bengals getting -2.5 here at home. They, of course, have had a very, very rough go to the beginning of their season, not looking anything like they have in the past. 0-2 to start. I guess they actually did begin last season 0-2, I believe. But nobody expected that out of them. The Rams, on the other side, a very surprising win against the Seahawks to open up, only to get kind of skunked against the Niners after a decent first half. Eventually got the game pulled away on. So, what do you got for this one?
I'm a I'm a maybe surprise you here. I got the Rams.
Ooh.
I think the Bengals dropped to 0-3 here. There is something wrong with this Bengals team. And I know Joe Burrow is very much listed as a questionable with a calf injury.
Right.
That would explain a lot to me if this is something that's been bugging him maybe for the first couple of weeks and it's just now starting to really become a problem. I know he said that he re-injured it in week 2, which is fascinating to me. It leads me to believe that it was probably something that he was dealing with at the start of the season. It just kept getting worse. Um, I think we undersold the Rams pretty heavy. And I mentioned it coming into the season. There was something about all those young pieces they had at the skill positions, Kyron Williams, Puka Nakua, Tutu Atwell, that really made me unsure about what the Rams were. And it was ultimately going to come down to, can Matt Stafford find form again? Matt Stafford's looked damn solid through his first 2 games this season. And boy, Nakua, Atwell. I mean, Kyron Williams is so good. They finally ditched Cam Akers. Uh, so I don't know. The Bengals' run defense has been really bad. I think Kyron Williams eats in this game. I think Kyron Williams is going over 100 for the first time in his career today, or on Monday rather. And I think the Rams take this.
It's like, this is, yeah, it's pretty wild, because I wouldn't have ever uh it wouldn't even have been considered, really. I mean, like, especially going into the season, like, oh yeah, this is the Bengals blow away win here. But yes, you bring up the injuries. Just the fact that this offense, I mean, you brought up, if this has been the underlying thing for Joe Burrow, but like Joe Mixon hasn't been able to get going at all. Not only is this team damn near dead last in passing yards per game, damn near dead last in rushing yards per game. Points obviously kind of follow that as well. Defense that hasn't been able to continuously pick up for that slack. And they're a very middling defense right now for a team that I think they've built up a. They should have built up a bit more of that. But they can only do so much when the offense is struggling as much as it is. Uh, they're 27-24 last week. Looks a lot closer than it was, because Baltimore was pretty dominant in that game throughout, and only until late did the Bengals have anything going on offense. Literally, in that first half, I think their only touchdown was that punt return I watched them get. Um, but otherwise, yeah, it was very pedestrian. It is on the other side. I think the Rams. I will say, give more credit. I think I brought it up maybe last week or maybe just talking to you casually. That offensive line's a lot
Oh
better
yeah.
than I gave it credit for. They did pretty decently against the Niners. If that can continue, I suppose I don't see any reason why the Rams can continue it as far as um, playing a lot better than we expect. But surprise, surprise, I will actually go with the Bengals on this. They're reeling. They're on their back foot. They're potentially not even playing their starting quarterback, and I don't think they have a great backup as far as their quarterback is concerned. Who is their
Yeah,
backup?
Jake Browning. Uh,
Yeah, it's
I like them
almost
at Washington, but
the feeling like they can't lose the game. Almost it feels like they lose this one against the Rams, and it's starting to look really, really bad. Um, for a team that was right fucking there not too long ago. Out of almost desperation, I got the Cincinnati Bengals at home somehow finding a way to win this game, even if they're on their backup quarterback.
yeah, I honestly don't think it matters.
I yeah, I mean
I
potentially. I mean it hasn't looked good. Their offense has been one
I
of the
think
worst
if you
looking
have a
offenses.
50% Joe Burrow or 100% Jake Browning, I still think the one of these offenses has looked very strong this season. The other is the Cincinnati Bengals. And it's not like the Bengals defense has necessarily taken the whole of the slack on and carried this team forward. They've been pretty bang average at best. Doesn't look good. I
Yeah.
think I think we are seeing. I mean, I'm willing to call it because I think it's going to be a quick trigger. I think if they lose this game, maybe going the next week, we might see the first coach firing. I don't think Zach Taylor's seat is very cold right now, man. That seat is burning.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
this Bengals team has expectations, and 0-3 is not it. 0-4 would certainly be the end, I would imagine. But they can't afford to sit on a bad record for very long. They just can't. And I do think Zach Taylor might be the casualty here.
Yeah, yeah, I mean if they're really feeling the pressure like that, I suppose there may be a need for a shakeup. Maybe they kind of recognize that they got really unfortunate draw with some of the injuries, but yeah, it's very surprising where they stand at this point. They haven't looked good in uh at any aspect really. And again, yeah, the score from last week not telling the
No.
story of really how that game went. So it's got to be the turnaround. They got to do it now, or it really starts to look like you kind of just threw away a season right there. And the
Yep.
windows are open for only so long, right? These teams, no matter what, with salary caps and the players, that sort of thing, the receiving core that the Cincinnati Bengals have is like, how long are you going to be able to keep this going? You already had problem with T. Higgins, being unhappy, that
Yep.
sort of thing. So, got to try to get that going right going forward. But that'll wrap it up right there for our picks. I will say, for the most part, we were agreeing, except for that Atlanta Detroit game early on, where we're split. You got Atlanta, I got Detroit. And then we hit these last three games to where I got the Raiders, you got Pittsburgh, I got Tampa Bay, you got Philly, and I got Cincinnati, and you got the Rams. So there's our four split games as far as our picks. Everything else we line up on, it looks like. So should be an interesting weekend of games going forward. Anything else you want to hit upon as we start to wrap it up, as far as news or any other sports happening?
Hey, it's a big weekend in college football. Big weekend in college football. 6 ranked matchups. 6 of them. 12 ranked teams are playing each other this week. Big games. Notre Dame and Ohio State, obviously, chief among them. But you got Colorado, Oregon. You got Utah, UCLA. Ole Miss, Alabama. Uh, Iowa is technically ranked, so them versus Penn State, I guess, counts as a big game. Uh, Huge weekend in college football. If you want to know how I picked those games, sportscliches.blogspot.ca.com. Sportscliches.blogspot.com. That's where you're going to want to go.
Yeah.
That's where the picks are. I was 4-1 last week. I'm getting my groove this season on who's good and who's not. I think I got them for this week. Maybe. I'm
Yeah.
very unsure on a few of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Be sure to check that out. Yeah, exactly. Craig doing write-ups on all this stuff. So yeah, breaking down the games as well, reasoning for the picks. A lot of good stuff on that. And you want to make sure that you're catching our live stream every Friday or Saturday or whenever the hell we decide to do it. It's right here on twitch.tv/tapatioj. That's TAPATIOJ. I almost mispronounced my own name. Or you catch us on the YouTube. We'll have that VOD uploaded hopefully tomorrow-ish. We'll see when we get everything there. But that's at Sports Clichés on the YouTubes. Be sure to drop us a follow and catch anything that you missed as far as our breaking down the games for this upcoming week. Should be a fun one as always. And yeah, I think that wraps it up for me this week. Craig, anything you want to sign off with?
That's it for me.
Excellent. Well, thank you all. Anybody that's been able to stop by, do appreciate it. We will be back next week to talk about the Thursday night game that's going on and the week that was, as well as breaking down the next week in the NFL. This is Sports Cliches Podcast. I'm Jay. That's Craig. We'll see you next time.
Deuces.